Events are unfolding rapidly. Troops from Germany are now being withdrawn. Tariffs that the auto industry can no longer afford. Churches are being set on fire in England. I have to tell you, the situation is escalating completely, and if you'd like to support this channel, I would really appreciate a like and a subscription. Let's get into it. It's going to be explosive. Today we're doing the Foreign Affairs special again, and tomorrow there will be another special from Hungary. Here, the situation has also reached an absolute boiling point and nobody is talking about it.
That happened faster than expected. The U.S. is withdrawing 5,000 soldiers from Germany. Defense Minister Hexeth announced this in Washington, D.C.
For all those who are now saying, thank God they are leaving Germany, hold on, I need to bring you back for a moment because that's also part of the topic and everyone absolutely needs to understand this. The Americans who are here in Germany have an incredibly high purchasing power, and there are a lot of stores that have specialized in the American market. With such little economic growth and at the same time the tariffs that are now going to skyrocket, that's not good at all. In my opinion, they should be left here now. Secondly, and I would say this is the main point of the whole thing, since people here have been made so afraid of Putin, of course he will be very happy that even more American troops are leaving Germany. If that's not a warning signal that we urgently need to engage in real diplomacy with everyone and with all governments out there, then I don't know what is. He still hasn't fully understood the seriousness of the situation.
Just one day after President Trump had previously announced the measure, this is a heavy blow because it means that 1 in 8 GIs will be withdrawn from Germany.
And anyone who is now saying, thank God the Americans aren't our friends anyway, it's true, but they're not our enemies yet either. And that's the point we should all be making. Yesterday, I watched the interview with Nigel Farage from Great Britain, and you can hear it in many of his statements and in a lot of what he does. I just throw my hands up in disbelief and think, how can he do that? However, but with many things that are for his own people, he keeps his word. And let's be honest, what he's doing in the USA, he's carrying out exactly the policies he threatened people there with. If people don't understand that or don't want to understand it because they just don't understand the situation out there, then that's not his problem. Although I have to say quite often, the kind of politics he's doing is a bit too much for me, but maybe more on that later. But what about the people we have here in Europe? Do we actually have to be afraid now of a big counterattack from Putin?
What would definitely be possible is that troops stationed in Germany could then go, for example, to Poland, Romania, Bulgaria, or the Baltics.
Not if it's Hungary or Bulgaria, that's where the troops should go. So, anyone who's panicking that Putin will be at our doorstep tomorrow, I'm afraid I have to correct that impression. No, the troops are definitely staying in Europe. However, that's the point. That means we have to spend even more money on armaments to possibly defend ourselves against an enemy we still don't have today. What actually happens if you keep firing shots at Putin and at the same time at Donald Trump? I mean, we as little Germany, we've been through that before. Wait, help me think for a moment. When was the last time we took on both the Americans and the Russians at the same time, and how did that end again? I think it ended in a surrender after roughly 40 million people, maybe even 60 million, lost their lives. Do we really want this history to repeat itself just because we're determined to force things through again? And hey, our foreign minister, no, our interior minister, our finance minister, he also let off some steam. Listen to him for a moment.
We really don't need any advice from Donald Trump.
He should take a look at the mess he's made. He should make sure that serious peace talks are held in Iran now.
After he told the Germans that they should finally start peace talks in Ukraine. Of course, that's exactly what Germany is good at, getting into conflicts with the people who still aren't completely hostile toward us. What's your opinion on that? Buying Russian gas while relying on American security? or saying we won't go down that path. And we're following the path of Waterful, who says we now need to bring in more Moroccans to boost our economic performance. No joke, he actually said that yesterday as foreign minister, even though he should actually be dealing with the war in Ukraine. Because, well, nothing is happening there, at least nothing from our side. There. And whether you like him or not, Donald Trump actually did a lot more than the Europeans, who just keep sending blank checks nonstop. By the way, the 90 billion, that's not the end of it. Now it's going to be 140 billion that we have to release. It just took a month longer. Somehow you have to pay for this corruption in Ukraine.
That's actually realistic and conceivable. It could even have the paradoxical effect that an American president, whom we all actually assume, that he actually doesn't intend to deter Russia and that he actually wants to have a good relationship with Russia, now brings American troops even closer to Russia.
And what do you think? What is the potential if American troops are moved even further toward the eastern border? I don't think Putin will find that particularly great. That's why I definitely think we should urgently maybe just buy gas from Putin again, somehow get it here, repair a pipeline, and just say to ourselves, no, we're completely staying out of this. And before we go to Great Britain now, as I already mentioned, where churches are being set on fire, I want to quickly tell you again, there's a new statistic here in Germany, namely that right-wing violence is increasingly on the rise. And then, before we go over to England, I'll quickly tell you how this new spiral of violence is actually being measured.
Last year, German police recorded the highest number of right-wing motivated violent acts since 2016, according to a federal government response to the Left Parliamentary Group.
For example, if you draw the old sun symbol, I'm sure you all know which cross I mean. If you draw the old sun symbol the wrong way around because left-wing activists spray it somewhere, it's counted as a right-wing crime. If left-wing activists attack right-wingers or members of the new right, beat them up, or even hit them with a hammer, those are now considered right-wing crimes. For example, if you're walking down the street as a normal person and you're recognized as a right-winger or member of the new right, and then someone knocks you down, are those not left-wing extremist crimes but rather right-wing crimes? For example, if there is a case of severe insult, which also happens, it is also recorded as a right-wing crime. That's very, very important. That's why there's an exponential increase. And by the way, the same goes for the left-wing cases as well. However, the inquiry from the left makes me pretty suspicious. Why did they ask about that specifically? And now, as I promised you, let's take a look at the right-wing cases in England, these right-wing crimes.
Easily 7-8 fire trucks, if not more, have arrived on scene, along with a fire inspector. You can see
By the way, I received both videos from Tommy Robbins. One shows the churches in England and the other shows the churches in Scotland at the same time. And what right-wing acts of violence can look like, I'll show you in the next clip. There, people tried to go to church and take a close look at what happened. So, ordinary citizens want to go to a regular church in the Netherlands and have no bad intentions. And look at how the police are hitting them. Yes, Muslims and left-wing activists are blocking church entrances, and by now the population is just completely fed up with it. Or I would say, after the election of Donald Trump, more and more people are standing up and don't want this anymore. Quote Nigel Farage, everything. What Donald Trump actually did well is that he limited migration in his country, where he actually has more support and more approval, even in New York, where The mayor swore on the Quran, and even there the situation is now escalating into street battles, and the city is on the verge of bankruptcy, just as a side note. And now, once again, my favorite clip from the Netherlands, right here from the neighborhood, showing that people have had it up to here, and so have I. We want, and I'll use a quote from Björn Höck here, based on what I just watched. I want a culture of trust back, that I can trust people out there, that they won't damage my car, that I can live in peace, and that I can trust the people out there, that nothing will happen to me personally. Okay, it wasn't a quote from him, just the part about trust, but that's basically what he meant. We want a culture back that makes life worth living, and here are the images from the Netherlands. And before this gets misunderstood again, before some clip from people who just want to stir up trouble shows up down below. Every Muslim in this country is absolutely welcome as far as I'm concerned, as long as they follow the rules and laws. But that has nothing to do with being Muslim, Christian, or anything like that. It's just one thing: we have a huge problem. Germans who can't follow the laws can easily fly abroad because they have birthright here, while for others, well, it's a bit different. So guys, just follow the laws here in Germany. Stick to our Christian values. Yes, stick to that and come back to a basis of trust so that you can trust your neighbor. If he grills 10 times a week, then he grills 10 times a week. You trust him that nothing will happen to you. Why is this my favorite clip, even though it really polarizes people so much? I'll tell you. All Muslims who are watching me, all who follow Islam, all people who want to live here in peace, your culture is none of my business. And I'll tell you exactly what I think about it now. My children have friends and acquaintances who are Muslims. And that's why I mentioned grilling, when we have a barbecue at home and I have pork on the grill, no one is allowed to eat with us. I respect this culture, but I don't have to adopt it. And I will continue to live my life just as I did before. And if you want to bring aggression, violence, terror, and death to these streets, then there are people out there who really have something to do with right-wing violence. And I'm telling you, at some point people in Europe are going to lose their patience, and for now, you still have uncertainty. Approximately a share of 20%, sometimes only 15% in those countries. And if things escalate here in Europe, we've proven that we can rebuild our countries, which is not something you can exactly say about your countries. And if you reach that point and say, like, I still love Germany, then of course you are warmly invited, if this escalation happens, to help rebuild this country. Then you have German Christian values. We destroy everything and then rebuild it afterwards. Just look at Friedrich Merz.